That's cool. Anyone else want to share what stage their project or their cup project is up to so far? Anyone? Yeah, I can't wait
Our
to.
stage is actually going pretty well. We I have narrowed it down to two ideas for like a out of our top three that we really want to do, and so they're both looking really promising. And I'm really excited to try and figure out after because we're meeting up after this meet to decide which one will be our top idea. So I'm really
Awesome.
excited.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really good to be excited because then if it's an exciting process, then the project, then work, or sorry, if it's an exciting idea or project, then the journey of working on it itself will be that much more fun and enjoyable. So that's good. Um, Alrighty. So, by the way, if you some people are asking about attendance, Zoom automatically um, collects a keeps track of who joins the link. So if you guys want to just rename yourselves to the names you signed up with on Cup, that way we can keep track of who attended the session. You don't need to do anything else. Just make sure that your name on the that's appearing is your actual name. Yeah. Meeting mentors. That's cool. To rename yourself, you just go to the participants tab and then click on your name, and then you should be able to hit like more or something, and then it'll say like rename. Yeah. Alrighty, Timur. Whenever you're ready, you can take it off.
All right. Well, I think we can pretty much get started then. Welcome everyone to Tech Under 20 Cup Workshop number 2. Me and Sam are um, leaders in the Tech Under 20 Ventures part of Tech Under 20, and we're collaborating with the Cup team to deliver you these workshops. This workshop is a continuation of last week's. Last week, you guys covered the ideation and problem seeking part of your product. This week, we're going to cover prototyping and testing of your product. I think this is the coolest part. No offense, Sam, but it's up to you. Today's agenda is going to be something like we're going to first prototype. We're going to learn how to prototype in Figma. It's okay if you've never heard of it. Then we're going to have a short Q&A. Then we're going to talk about testing your product, and then we're going to have a final Q&A. There is a requirement for ventures people to submit more than just their product for the presentation next week, but this doesn't apply to Cup people, which is kind of the topic of these two last ones. So let's begin. Workshop 2, prototyping and testing your product. Now, why would you want to prototype your product? What even is prototyping? Prototyping is essentially the act of creating the product, a product that is good enough to present to your audience and get feedback from, to start this sort of iterative process of improving it and eventually putting it to market, and so on and so forth. So it's probably the most important one, in my opinion. It's very important. It's a very important part of the entire process. Now, what we're going to be using to prototype today is something called Figma. Figma, in one sentence, is a free design and prototyping tool with Google Docs style collaboration and built-in presentation and code generation. Very long-winded, but why is it better than Google Drawings or Google Slides or whatever, or actually just coding the product that you're going to present? Well, Figma allows you to present a realistic looking product without a single line of code. And it's very, very intuitive. Their workflows are very refined. It's great. So without further ado, let's jump into it. What you want to do is go to figma.com. You'll be presented with this sort of screen. And over here in the drafts tab, you will see a little plus button. That's the button to create a new project. You have all these templates here, but in order to explain the basics of Figma, I'm just going to go with a blank canvas. And boom, you are presented with this. Essentially, this may look quite daunting. There's a lot of buttons here, a lot of tabs, but what we're going to start slow. So Figma works essentially on frames. A frame is what you will present. It's kind of like a slide in a Google slide. So let's see how we can create a frame. And you can create frames in different sizes and in different styles. We're going to go over to this frame tool. We're going to click it, and we're instantly presented with a bunch of options for already pre-sized kind of frames for different purposes. You have a desktop frame. I'm going to go with a mobile kind of thing, just because I feel like that's the most common. I'm going to go with an iPhone 8 size frame. So there we have it. We have our frame. We can resize it like this. Pretty standard. Next, we're just going to add some buttons. We're going to straight up just go and add some buttons. So go up to this rectangle tool, and we're going to add a nice gray looking button here. And instantly you see all this stuff pop up. It's basically just the properties that the button has in relation to the product. These are sliders. So if you hover over the X, you can change the position and the height and the angle and the roundedness of the squares. So that's pretty cool, but we're actually going to just keep it the way it was. Probably the most important one is color. So you can maybe not the most important, but the one that is pretty, well, one of the foundational ones is color. So I'm going to make it a really bright red so we can see it. And okay, so now we have this iPhone screen and we have a button. Our app is going to have more than one button. So I guess I'll just Control-C and Control-V it to copy it. Now, I don't want to do that all the time. I don't want to have to copy and paste each button and then have to change each individual property about it in order for it to fit in the overall theme of my design. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to delete one of them. I'm going to right click this button and I'm going to hover over create component and click. This makes my button into what's called a component. It turns purple. And now if I go here into the assets tab, I can click and drag, and what it essentially does, it creates copies of that red button. But it doesn't just create copies of my red button. Let's say I want to change this button to a blue color. Choose blue, and there we go. All of those buttons change according to this parent we call component. So I find that pretty cool. And if we want to add text, we go over to the text tool, hover over like that, and put in tech under 20. And as you can see, all of this stuff, it copies over quite nicely as well. Boom. So now we have 3 buttons. I'm going to now show you another feature of Figma that I find really cool. It's called Smart Select. What it does is if you have 3 buttons that are exactly the same amount apart, Smart Select is activated whenever you select all 3 buttons. So here, if I put it in the right position, there we go. All 3 buttons are 76 pixels away from each other, and we can select all 3. And now these pink Smart Select things pop up. So the dots allow you to switch the buttons in between each other. So I can switch in between each other, and the dashes allow you to change the distance between them. And it's all dynamic and it's all responsive. I find that really cool. So now we have 3 buttons and they're nicely spaced, but I don't want them to be all the same. How do I stop a button from being a copy of this? I right click and I click detach instance. And I'm going to do that for the other one as well. And now I can change this color back to red. I'm going to change this to orange. So now all 3 of them are different, and it actually makes sense to maybe switch up the order of them if you wanted to. So there you go. So I have a screen now. I can make multiple screens with these different shape tools. I can do a lot of stuff, but the real meat of Figma comes into the presentation aspect. So when you're presenting an app, you want it to be somewhat responsive. You know, you want to actually click on the screen and have it move. How do we move to a different kind of screen? Imagine like moving from the homepage of Instagram to the DMs, the direct messages. How do we do that? Well, first you need to start with another frame. So what we're going to do is we're going to make another frame, and we're going to make another frame, and we're going to make a third frame. And this is going to be our whole app. We have 3 buttons, and these 3 buttons go to these 3 frames. That's our goal for now. I'm going to copy this button into here. I'm going to copy the red button into here, and I'm going to copy the blue button. Whoops. Control Z to undo. I'm going to copy the blue button into here. Pretty simple stuff. In order to actually get this to work, let's see how it looks right now. You can press present. And as you can see, a phone shows up. At the bottom, you can scroll through the different frames that you have. Looks like my first frame is a little bit poorly sized, so I'm going to resize it a little bit. There we go. But how do I actually get for the buttons to work like they should? Well, you need to select the button, go to prototype, and click this plus next to interactions. Then on tap, click none, and switch to navigate to. And then we're going to navigate to iPhone 8 too. So what this did was essentially now when I click this button in the presentation mode, it's going to navigate to that frame. That's very a long way of doing it. So instead of doing that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this prototype tab activated. And now every single button has this sort of circle that I can click and drag and connect to different frames. So let's see what that did. Frame still messed up, but that's okay. If I actually click the button, it takes me to the corresponding page. That's pretty cool. And that took me exactly, what, 10 minutes? This would take much longer if I were to code it myself. Great. So now we have a sort of okay looking prototype. What if I have some sort of feed that I need to show? How do I do that? Well, let's make the feed this iPhone 8.3 frame. First thing we're going to do is we're going to make it super long because we need to physically scroll through it, right? And next, I'm going to put an indicator as to, like, how do we know we're actually scrolling through it? So I'm going to make a quick copy of these buttons so we know we're scrolling through. And what you'll notice is immediately when you present it, you can actually scroll through. And it's that easy. There you go, scrolling. But if you know, as you know, on Instagram, there is a constant bar that is on the bottom at all times. It's always there. So how do we add that? For that, we will need something called constraints. Now, constraints are a little bit interesting. So let me just demonstrate with another framework that we're not using. I'm going to create 3 copies of the same button. Whoa, I created way too many. One too many. What are constraints? So over here, we have this sort of what I call an anchor and these different settings. If I put this setting as left, that means that when I resize the frame, this button is anchored to the left position. It doesn't change. But say I changed both of them to scale, left and right and up and down, what happens when I resize the frame is they're going to move around proportionally. Their size is going to change proportionally to the size of the frame. Here, I'll just demonstrate some of them. So I'm going to make this one anchored to the right, and I'm going to make this one anchored to the center horizontally, and vertically, I'm just going to say scale. So what does this do? Now, as you can see, they're all anchored differently. Unfortunately, it's not very easy to tell what is happening because I put slightly weird settings. Let's see if I can make it more intuitive. So this one's right, and it's anchored to this. I'm just gonna put all the vertical settings to scale, and then the horizontal settings to right and left to see what that looks like. So there we go. So that one's scaling with the frame. This one's anchored to the right, and this one's anchored to the left. Those are constraints, but how does that help with the scrolling issue? What we need to do is we need to put a rectangle on the bottom. Let's just say this is your menu bar. You need to put a constraint to the bottom vertically and check mark fixed position when scrolling. And immediately what you'll notice is that you have the gray bar stays there and allows for the other content to scroll past. And that's it. We have something that you could make potentially into a full-blown app. Two last things I want to mention, comments and sharing. Sharing in Figma is really, really easy. It's kind of like Google Docs. You can invite someone through email. You can copy the link. And that's about it. You copy the link, send it to your team. Pretty easy. It edits just like Google Docs. 2 people can edit at the same time. Multiple people, actually. I think it's a lot of people. Next, commenting. There's a comment tool. So if I wanted to comment on this frame here, I'll say fix alignment. I can, and then everyone that looks at this document will see this comment. They can resolve it. They can copy a link to the comment if you want to reference it in an email, and you can edit it as well. And you can also see it in the comments tab here. All right. And that was Figma. Any questions?
I do have a question regarding the buttons that you create and attaching them to the other screens. So regarding that, is there any way to make the buttons that you connect, quote unquote, like invisible or not as visible when you attach them to the other page? Or do they always have to be present in the same position they were on like the home page?
Oh, no. So for example, let's see if I can get this working. If I move these around, they'll still link. So this one still links here. This one still links there. So the positions don't matter at all. It's actually a property of the button that it links to another frame. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's perfect. But one more before I, continue on. Regarding the feed version that we had, is there any way that we don't have to put like 3 separate buttons to connect them, or is that the only way to create a feed in this case?
Well, the 3 separate buttons are only there for you to actually notice that anything is scrolling. I could just have one button, but what happens then is I don't know whether I'm scrolling or not. Like it's just white. So I just put 3 buttons for you to know that I'm scrolling.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Is there a way to do an anchor scroll, like what you would see on Instagram where there's buttons at the bottom at all times?
Oh yeah, for sure. Let's put some buttons at the top. So let's copy this gray thing and put it at the top. We're going to go to constraints. We're going to put it to the top, and we're going to keep this check marked. Let's see what happens. Now you have a gray thing at the top and at the bottom, and you can still scroll. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Cool. All right. If that's all the questions, then let's move on to testing. Testing your product. Now, why would you want to test your product? Testing your product essentially allows you to verify that there are people in need of your product and that your business is viable. Testing allows you to verify the effectiveness of your solution and to know that your solution is being exposed to the target to the target market properly. What kind of testing is there? Well, there's surveying an audience about it, or doing some sort of data-driven testing, such as A/B testing, which is what we're going to be covering. So A/B testing is a type of test aimed at increasing engagement to a website or a product. In essence, it pins a control, a variation, a control group, and a variation group, and it has a hypothesis to essentially choose a group to actually use. For a concrete example, let's consider a bakery. So a bakery wants to create its signature food, and it wants it to be a cookie. It has an orange cookie and a yellow cookie, but it doesn't know which one will be a better signature food. So what it decides to do is put them both up on sale, and then after 2 months, collect sales metrics. And those sales metrics will determine which cookie becomes their signature food, because obviously it is more attractive to consumers. And perhaps the hypothesis for something like this would be the yellow cookie will be better because it looks more natural. There has to be a hypothesis element for A/B testing to work, because otherwise you end up with data that you don't really know what to do with. In the online product world, instead of sales figures, we use metrics such as click-through rate and cost per action to measure engagement, is what we say. So what is click-through rate? Click-through rate is the ratio between the people that see an element on screen and the people that actually click it. A higher click-through rate means your ad is more effective. Cost per action, on the other hand, is the cost for you to keep that ad displayed per person actually clicking it. So as cost per action goes down, that means that you paid the same amount, but there's more people clicking on your ad, which means it's more effective. So click-through rate, higher is better. Cost per action, lower is better. And click-through rate and cost per action are kind of analogous to sales figures when we talk about the bakery example. So let's start with an actual real-world example. When is A/B testing ever used actually? Around 2014, Spotify changed its default theme to a darker one. Before doing this, they ran an A/B test where a small portion of the audience were automatically switched from the light user interface to the dark version. Through collection of user data, Spotify realized that with the dark user interface, users actually listen to more music. And through surveys, users even mentioned that the darker interface seemed to provide a broader range of music, even though the catalog didn't change whatsoever. Now, what this shows is that small changes can have a huge effect, especially aesthetically in this case. And they were able to determine what to do based on an A/B test. Now, had they not done an A/B test, they could have still maybe changed it to dark, but they would not have nearly the amount of confidence in that decision. Through this A/B test, they were able to actually have data behind their decision to verify that it is in fact the correct way forward. Another concrete example is Electronic Arts. So they had this SimCity purchase page, and one portion of the audience were given a purchase page with this pre-order advertisement at the top, and on the other version it was hidden. Now the hypothesis was that more people would engage in the pre-order one because it actually gives you a sale. In practice, however, the one on the right, the one without the pre-order banner, performed 40% better. They had 40% more people actually click the buy button, give them money, because the advertisement wasn't there, surprisingly. Yet another example is, it's pretty common, but basically certain creators on YouTube, they utilize YouTube analytics to create A/B tests to allow their videos to perform better. So they choose a thumbnail and then see how the video performs based on that thumbnail, and then switch it to a different one to try and improve it. In this example, Veritasium changed one of his videos thumbnails because it performed better. As you can see right now, if you look at it, it's this rocket ship, but back in October, I used the Wayback Machine and the thumbnail was different. This isn't just one example. Channels like BuzzFeed also do this. So, speaking generally online, there are a ton of ways to conduct A/B tests on a product online. These include, you can change the text style, you can change the imagery, you can change the website layout, you can change the website navigation, you can change the user input. Now, what does that mean? What I mean by changing the user input is essentially if you have 10 fields on a pre-order form for a video game versus 8 fields on a form for a video game, which one of those will actually get more users to the end of the pre-order form to give the company money? That is an A/B test. There's also social proof, which you can include or change. So social proof would include testimonials and reviews. So changing what review comes up first, or which testimonial you wish to feature. How does that affect sales in the end? And then finally, call to action. The call to action can be strong or weak. So essentially a stronger call to action compels you to actually like either click on the ad or give the company money, something like that. And you can obviously make it subtle, or you can make it super in your face. So those are some examples of how you would do A/B testing. Now let's look at some documented examples. Let's see. Oh, sorry. This next section is going to be talking about A/B testing and ads specifically, because unfortunately, one of the problems with A/B testing is that you need to have a significant audience or a significant traffic to your product or website before A/B testing becomes statistically significant. And unfortunately, that's not the case for a lot of ventures participants and cup participants. So we thought it'd be more useful to talk about A/B testing and ads, for which you do not need a significant user base. So testing your product through ads is useful because it can help you find an audience to cater to before you have a significant user base. Ads can make use of cost per action and click-through rate metrics to measure engagement once again. And essentially what you're doing is you're hosting on things like Amazon advertising, Facebook ads, and Google ads. You can even use their templates, and these platforms also provide metric data for you to use to kind of figure out whether your product fits the market.
Hang on, Timur, wait 1 second.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Look, I understand if you guys are trying to be funny, but like right now we're trying to teach something that's very, very valuable. If you're gonna be annoying or disturbing other people, we're gonna have to unfortunately kick you out of the meeting. We don't want it to get to that stage. If you guys want to be funny, please be funny at a later time. But in this particular meeting, we're trying to teach you guys some very important things. If you want to be here, that's great. Please pay attention. There are a lot of people that want to learn. If you don't, please by all means, you can go ahead and leave. Thank you. Sorry about that, Timur. Go for it.
No problem. So essentially, you will be looking at hosting ads for your product on these services. Let's look at some examples from there. So this is Rumi Circle's A/B test. Rumi Circle is a Indian mobile game company, and their Facebook ad got 224% lower cost per action, which is good, because they removed an unnecessary call to action here, which discouraged viewers from clicking on the ad. Pretty self-explanatory. It's very, very subtle. One thing that can help is one thing that can help in your A/B tests is to have targeted, specific things that you change instead of basically completely different ads. The opposite can be true, but essentially they changed something very specific and got a huge increase from it. Another example is Humana health insurance company. So their control looked like at the top image, and what they came up with afterward looked like the bottom image. They changed the call to action, and they also changed the text. Now a poll is up right now. I want you guys to choose on which one is better. Which one do you think had a better click-through rate, more more click-through rate? This is a banner that basically came up on their website immediately after you got on. So which one do you think is better? We'll talk about why afterward. Someone asked in the chat, how are we going to perform the A/B test? Do we have to pay for FB Google Ads? No, in the ventures expectations, you are only supposed to come up with a strategy for hosting these ads. So if you were to host these ads, what kind of data would you look for? What are you targeting? And based on how the ads perform, how are you going to change your product? That's what we are telling others to focus on. You don't need to buy Facebook or Google ads.
So the results from the poll have came through, and so far 74% have voted for the bottom ad, and 26% have voted for the top ad.
Cool. Why do you think that is? Is there any particular reason? Oh, I kind of spoiled it, but yeah. So essentially, the bottom ad had a 433% increase in click-through rate, which means that it was insanely better than the first one. Can anyone pinpoint why? Maybe
it looks less like spam. It looks like more effort was put into it.
okay. So it
I
looks.
agree with Arik. It just looks cleaner. Yeah.
So it looks
Cleaner.
more well put together.
I think another thing is that it has the get started now thing is bigger, so it stands out a bit more.
Okay.
Also kind of small. I don't. But by having both a man and a woman, it might perform like demographic data with both sexes.
Very true. Those are all good. Those are all good answers. Yeah. That is what they did essentially. They had a better call to action, bigger green button. They had different styles. They included different people, and they changed the background image. But as you can see, it wasn't by much. See, they still look like they're on a beach. It's just that in this one there's no sand, and this one it's more blurry. The other thing is it's harder to quantify which feature actually put them over the edge. Like what part of this is the actual call to action and what part of this is the different photo. It's impossible to tell because they changed a lot more elements than just the text on top of the ad. So now we can move on. This example is actually, believe it or not, it's an old TU20 Facebook ad. I believe this is yeah. So this is Learn to Get Hired 2017, our job fair event, and essentially the hypothesis was that the rabbit ad would perform better because of its cute factor. But it's actually like it's not very informative at all. It doesn't even have the TU20 anything on it. But what do you guys think?
I'm actually surprised with the number of people that are voting for the bottom ad.
Well, it'd be interesting to see like click how many people clicked on it versus which one got more people to sign up. Like,
Alrighty, so we've got about 80% of the people that voted. As you guys can see, the top ad gathered 72% worth of results, and bottom ad accounted for 27% of all votes.
I'm going to end polling.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so let's see what for this ad we actually have the actual like prices, and we're going to use cost per action. So the bunny ad costed 73 cents per click, while the bottom text-based ad costed $1.70, 74 cents per click. That's an insane difference. That's a whole dollar per click. What cost per action means is that even though we paid the same amount for both of these ads, there were more clicks on the rabbit one. There was more engagement on the rabbit one, which means that it was cheaper. So the hypothesis was correct. People do care about how cute the rabbit is on the screen. Of course, that's not the only thing that changed. This one has a white background. This one is a photo. This one has Photoshop involved. This one is much less humorous. It's more like straight to the point, of course. That all has some sort of effect, but the main thing was the kind of the bunny factor. So that's A/B testing. Yeah. Now, if you look at the venture's expectations, you are supposed to come up with a strategy to basically say what you will, based on the analytics from the advertisement that you create, how will you change the product, and how will you cater to the audience that you found through advertisement. And A/B testing is in turn a good strategy to kind of strategize that in that way. If you create a set of tests and then roll them out, tell us how you're going to track whether one ad does good, and then if that ad does good, what will you change about the product? That's the heart of this. And it's project expectation number 5 for ventures. If you are only in TU20 Cup, don't worry about this, although I do recommend the ventures program on top of TU20 Cup if you want extra feedback. Yeah. Once again, this is all an iterative process. So what you should be thinking about is even after the first testing phase, you can basically restart from scratch, not from scratch, but given the info that you've collected, make new ads, hone your audience, change your product, and so on. And that about wraps it up for today. A little shorter, I believe, a little bit of a shorter workshop, around 45 minutes. But does anyone have any questions about anything? About Cup or Ventures or?
When you say like cost per click, do you mean like that's how much like against you, or like is that for you? Like how much like do you get money from getting like your ad clicked on?
No. So the way it works is, well, obviously on Facebook, you pay for an ad, right? You pay a set amount for an ad. Let me just go back to it. So these two ads, let's just say that you pay the same exact amount for both ads. But since more people clicked on the rabbit ad, you could say that the rabbit ad was cheaper per click because you got more clicks for the same price. So you're paying, you're not getting money just yet, but a lower price, a lower cost per click means your ad is better.
Have you guys ever searched up anything on Google and then, like, let's say you search up, like, I don't know, Tim Hortons, and then right underneath the search bar or whatever, you'll see like a little ad, like a button, or I don't know, I guess like a small like ad sort of emblem beside it, and then it's like something completely irrelevant from Tim Hortons, but like still like some sort of similar coffee shop. So that's actually one of the examples of an ad using Google. So when you click on it, Google charges the person who owns the ad, 73 cents or whatever it is. And the more people that click on that particular ad, the cheaper it is per click for the person who's running that ad. Yeah. And the same applies to Facebook as well. Are there any other questions?
So just a quick one. For the ventures, do our members have to create an ad using Google or Facebook ads, or can you just use like a blank template or something?
I don't know. So Facebook and Google are just ad hosting services. To create an ad, I mean, I created these ads literally in the slide, viewer. Essentially, I just put the caption under the image in slides, and that's my entire ad. You can make it a Google drawing. You could make it a photo.
Oh, so you
anything
don't
like
make it in the platform, but they provide you the analytics for it.
Yes, exactly. So
Okay.
they host it and they provide you with the analytics, and you have to pay them.
Okay, thank you.
Would like the platform that you're using, alter sort of the metrics that you might be seeing? Like if you're using a more popular platform, like how would you compare that?
Well, it all depends on the price, right? At the end of the day, if advertising is cheap, then the cost per click is much different than advertising on Google. Probably, if you're advertising on some website that is not very well known, they're probably going to have a competitive price, whereas Google or Facebook are higher up there. So the money is really the kind of the relative metric here that you're looking for.
Yeah. Well, I did an internship at a company that worked with companies helping them get advertisement space on certain websites. So a lot of times they would just try and match you with a website that would fit your demographics, your users pretty well, and then it's up to you to make a good ad to go on that as far as the ad space.
I see.
Okay, thank you, Timur and Xander.
I just posted a link. So this is actually Facebook ad library. You can actually see every single ad that any advertiser on Facebook has posted as part of their Facebook's transparency project. If there's some companies that you feel like you tend to click on their ads a lot or you find intriguing, you can definitely look them up and see what goes into the development of their ads. Like maybe get a few sort of inspirational ideas. But that's a good link to sort of check out if you're for the project that that you guys are going to present next week.
Thank you, Sam. That's a great resource for inspiration as well as just research in general. If there's no other questions, Sam, do you think we could end this workshop?
Yeah, we can.
Hi, so sorry, I have a question.
Okay, go for it.
Sorry. What is that? The app developing, like the app developer called, like what you first demonstrated. Like, what is that called again?
Figma. It is called Figma.
Okay, thank you.
So thanks for the workshop, guys. See you later.
Awesome. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
See ya.
Bye, everyone.